everybody. This is Fago Franklin III, and I'm here with NFL quarterback Drew Bledsoe. First and foremost, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. I'm in Montana at 6 o'clock, so I figured while we were talking, I'd go ahead and have a glass of wine.
Oh yeah. So since we're talking about wine, tell me a little bit about your winery.
Yeah, we started this thing back in 2007, which is my first year out of football. Actually, started planning for it prior to that, and so we're 13 years into it, and it's become a real business, and having a lot of fun. And then I get to have a glass of wine and call it work. So man, life's good.
So tell me a little bit about your obstacles that you had to overcome in life as well as the NFL.
Yeah, the truth is, Fago, I've lived a pretty blessed life, quite honestly. I grew up in a great home, two parents, both school teachers. We didn't have a bunch of money or anything growing up, but we were never hungry. Always had new basketball shoes, all that stuff. There are some, even with that said, there are obstacles that all of us face in our lives. I think, there were a couple that were, pertaining to football. There were a couple that were kind of interesting, mostly just because I was really young. I became starting quarterback halfway through my freshman year when I was 18, playing for the Washington State Cougs. Two older quarterbacks on the roster, both of whom I really loved and respected, but we weren't winning, and so they decided to throw me in the game, so I became the starter. As an 18-year-old kid, man, fresh out of high school in this little small town, and that was pretty challenging to have to step in there and try to be a leader when everybody else is a lot older than you. And then I did the same thing when I got to the NFL. I got to the NFL, I was 21, and all of a sudden, man, I'm in the huddle with, as we lovingly referred to them, grown-ass men, right? And I got to step in. I got to step into the huddle with, Bruce Armstrong and Pat Harlow, and like some of these guys have been in the league for a long time, and I'm supposed to be their leader. So, those were challenging times, certainly. And then, probably the biggest one as it pertains to football was just that when I got hurt early in the 2001 season, and this disrespectful backup quarterback kid, this Tom Brady kid, came in, and he didn't understand what the word backup meant. He thought he was just going to stay in there. So, first of all, I was in the hospital for quite a while. I was in the hospital for 5 or 6 days, and then when I got out, couldn't really do anything for a few months. But then when I got healthy, I thought I was going to get my job back, and we were just going to keep on rolling. And sure enough, they made the decision to stick with the young kid. And obviously he's gone on to be one of the all-time greats. So I can't say I don't have any bitterness in me about the whole thing, but it was hard to deal with at the time, man. It was first of all, a life-threatening situation, and then beyond that, shoot, man, I just signed a 10-year deal with the Patriots. I was going to be there forever and ever, and all of a sudden, my job wasn't my job anymore. So those are some of the ones that immediately that come to mind, just in terms of the football side of things, certainly.
So since we're talking about Tom Brady, did you expect this tall, lanky kid to be a phenomenal quarterback?
I thought he was going to be around for a long time. Tom's a guy that, when he was young, he's still the same way he is today. He's just a great guy. Everybody loves him. I loved him. Still do. Still great friends. But I think outside of maybe Tom himself, I don't think anybody saw him going on to being one of the great quarterbacks of all time. He kind of skinny kid, really slow, still really slow. But threw it pretty good, was really smart. He's an extremely hard worker. And so what I thought he was going to be around the league for like 10 years, probably just as a backup, and then maybe get a chance to jump into a game here and there. But that first year when he was on the practice squad, I didn't see anything, that led me to believe that he was going to be a phenomenal quarterback. I just thought he was going to be a great guy that was going to be around for a while. But he's gone on to prove everybody wrong. And I just really hope we get to play football this year, man, because I want to see how he does down there in Tampa.
So who's going to have the better record, Tampa Bay or New England?
That's a great question, man. It's a great question. I think that's what I want to see. I mean, you just don't know. I do think the Bucks are going to be pretty good because they were pretty darn close last year. Jameis actually had a really nice season on the positive side. He just had too many turnovers, right? When you have that many turnovers, it's hard to win football games. Tommy's obviously not going to turn the ball over very much. And if they're got Gronk to come out of retirement to help them out, they've got some good weapons. They've got a pretty good offensive line. So I think they're going to be able to put some points up. I really like Bruce Arians. I think he's one of the great coaches that the league has. So I think that the Bucks have a real chance to be pretty darn good. And then as far as the Patriots, I mean, I know Tommy's not going to be there with him, but in the games that he missed over all of those years, I think they were something like 15-6 or something like that when he didn't play over all those years. The big thing they'll have to fill in New England, though, is just that leadership void that he brought. One of the most famous athletes in the world, but he was also the first guy in, last guy out, outworked everybody else. So there were no excuses available, man. If you're a young guy playing for the Patriots and you got this dude that's in his 40s that is in there before you, working harder than you, stays late, all of that stuff, you got no excuse but to bust your tail and work really hard for him. So they're going to have to fill that leadership void that Tom brought.
Do you think Cam Newton will actually come in there and be a great fit? This is a different side of a quarterback, especially in the Patriot scheme.
Yeah, it's again, it's another one of those storylines, man, that I'm dying to see. I certainly don't think he's just going to be handed the job. I think Jarrett Stidham, has been there a while, and he was kind of the guy that was going to be the guy, so that they'll have a competition. But Cam is an extremely unique talent, man. To be that big, that athletic, and he's built like a friggin' defensive end. And can run and can throw, and he's a very, very unique talent. So it'll certainly be interesting to watch. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. So say Stidham's the starter at the beginning of the season, just because of his familiarity with the system and so on. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see, even if Stidham is the starter, that they have some packages for Cam to come in and talk about a change of pace, man. You bring a guy that one of the great athletes in the world. You put him out there, and he can still throw it too. So it's not like you're just putting him out there and he's just a running back, man. He's a quarterback. So even if Stidham does win the starting job, I wouldn't be surprised to see Cam on the field quite a bit.
What advice can you give rookies about staying true to themselves in their first year in the season?
The best advice I would have, I'll give you two for rookies coming in. Number one is, man, when you're young, just keep your mouth shut and go to work, right? You don't have like I said earlier, man, when I was 21, broke into the league, there were guys that had been there for a long time, and I made sure I paid them their ultimate respect. When they spoke, I listened. I would talk when I was in the huddle, obviously, and I would, communicate, but in terms of trying to be a really vocal guy, be in the media, doing all of that stuff, man, don't do that. Just keep your mouth shut and go to work. And then the other thing, and this is where honestly, it was one of the things that Tom Brady was great at when he was on practice squad that first year, and then through training camp that second year. Man, he was curious, and he was in my ear all the time, just asking for advice, asking for why I threw balls to a certain place, why I did certain things. So for these guys coming in, hey man, be curious, find one of these old crafty vets and see how much information you can get out of them. Because that's going to be your best source of knowledge of the guys that have already been there and done what you're trying to do.
What advice can you give people about, going towards their dreams, making it happen, and having faith within themselves to get to point A to point B?
I've always been very goal directed. I think for people in general, especially for young people, man, it's okay to set really big goals, and then pursue them. If it's if you try to set a goal, but then you don't actually go pursue that, then it's just a dream, right? If it's a goal, you actually have to put action. We have to put action to it. But yeah, I mean, shoot, if you had seen what I looked like when I was like in middle school, If I told you I was going to be an NFL football player, man, you would have laughed me off the planet. I was tall. I was super skinny, big feet, just lanky, clumsy. I grew really fast, and if you looked out on the field and said, hey, pick out which one of those guys is going to be an NFL player, outside of the fact that I was tall, I might have been the last guy that they would have picked. But I worked my butt off and was fortunate to have some great coaches along the way, great mentors and so on. But, and with our business now, we set really big goals with our business, knowing that we may not get all the way there, but if we get close, we're in pretty good shape. If you set your goals down here and you achieve them, you're still down here, man. But if you set your goals way the heck up here and you get pretty close, you're awfully high, So I encourage people to dream big dreams and then go pursue them and grind as hard as you can to try to make it happen.
And speaking about your business, what are some good different techniques that you are utilizing right now during this pandemic to get from point A to point B to be successful with your business?
Yeah. One of the things that's been so cool going from football into business is how many similarities there are between, being a quarterback on a team and running a business, right? There's a reason that you got all these football terms that get used in business. It's like, hey, I need you to quarterback this project. We got to get this across the goal line. It's all about blocking and tackling. Like all these things you hear, and I think a lot of people don't even recognize that they're actually football terms. But the similarities are there all the time. And in answer to your question about what's going on right now, the biggest comparison I'll give you between ball and business is that you don't really know what kind of team you have until things go sideways, right? When everything's good and you're winning games by 40 points, man, everybody's happy, but you don't really find out what the character of your team is until you're down late in the fourth quarter or you've lost a couple games in a row and you got to bounce back. And man, it's the same in business. And our team has just excelled through this thing. They've adapted and overcome and changed course. Like we obviously can't do, normally like in the spring and summer, we do all kinds of in-person events, travel, do wine dinners, do all of that stuff. We can't do any of that stuff. So they've pivoted and they've been calling people on the phone. They're reaching out directly, communicating with people. They've stepped up our social media side. And they've also, honestly, they've taken advantage of, some of the time that's been freed up because they can't travel, to really take a deep dive and a hard look at all of our processes, all of our, what we're spending, all of our overhead, look at, all of our shipping practices, you name it. We've gone through with a fine-tooth comb and tried to get better at the minutia in our business. Because in normal times, we just wouldn't have the free, brain space or the time to actually go through those things. They've really done a great job on that front too. So, and turns out people still like to drink wine when they're stuck in their house. So it's actually been all right. It's been all right for us.
So what are your top 5 quarterbacks right now? And the next question after that is, do you think Patrick Mahomes is a Hall of Famer right now?
So the top 5, man, I would have to go look through the list like team by team to give you like an actual top 5. But I'll just give you a few quarterbacks that I love watching right now. I love watching Lamar Jackson play, and mostly because it's so different from any kind of game I could have fathomed in terms of just his speed and explosiveness and and the guy, he can throw it too, man. Like I know they lost to the Titans in the playoffs, but he had like 8 or 9 drop balls in that game, man, on balls that he threw really well. Otherwise, they're going to continue on. So as he continues to progress as a passer, unless he gets hurt, man, I think he's gonna ruin the league, man. He's all over the place. I'm still a big Aaron Rodgers fan. I just love watching him throw the ball, man. He's one of those guys that can just spin it. Mahomes, obviously you asked about him. I mean, look, no, you don't get to be a Hall of Famer after 3 years or 4 years. No, you gotta go for a long time. You gotta go for a long time. It's about an entire career. Where you develop that and keep winning. But I love watching him play, man. There are really only two guys, because I could throw it pretty good, man. There are really only two guys in the league right now that I look at like, all right, that dude can throw, and
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes is one of them, and Aaron Rodgers is the other one, man. I look at those two guys, man. They can spin it. I like Carson Wentz. I just want to see him stay healthy. I really like
Mm-hmm.
his game a lot. Um, I'm actually a bigger Dak Prescott fan than most people are. He gets I think he gets some unfair criticism. I like his game. I love his leadership. I love his character. I think he's really. I hope they get a long-term deal done between him and the Cowboys so that he can settle in down there, because it'd be good for both of them. And then here's my sleeper pick. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
I think Justin Herbert down with the Chargers. I think he is going to come out of the gates fast. I watched him play a
Mm-hmm.
bunch at the University of Oregon. Very accurate passer, big kid, athletic, smart. Does all those things. I think this not having like a full off season probably hurts him quite a bit. But the Chargers they were damn close last year. They had two offensive tackles were hurt most of the year, but they're playing great defense. And now they've got salary cap space going forward. So I would
Mm-hmm.
watch for Justin Herbert to be pretty successful coming up in the years to come.
And when you had retired, was it a smooth transition from going from player to entrepreneur, or was it kind of difficult for
Mm-hmm.
you?
Yeah. I was fortunate that I played long enough. I played 14 years, and we had started planning. My wife and I had started planning for what was next, probably after like year 8 or 9. And so when I made the decision to retire, it wasn't that I didn't want to play football anymore. It was that I wanted to move on to that next phase, and we had it set up, and we were getting ready to jump into this wine business, and I had a couple of other, business propositions going on, and then, and I also, man, our kids were at that age where, they're playing all their youth sports. I wanted to coach their teams and be around for all of that stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
so it wasn't a decision to leave football. It was a decision to move on to what's next, and I was ready for it, and I planned for it, and guys that are playing ball. There are very, very few of us that get to choose to retire. For most everybody, it ends before you think it's going to. Um, so the biggest advice I would give to guys is like, hey man, start that planning process right now. Figure out, a handful of things you're interested in, because, with the exception of Tommy, who's going to play till he's 50. Everybody else, man, you're like late 20s, early 30s, and you got your
Mm-hmm.
whole life ahead of you. And you can't, if you're going to be a fulfilled person and live a fulfilled life, you can't just hang out and play golf, and do nothing the rest of your life. You got to be a productive person. And so, I would encourage guys to really start that planning process early. And then when they get into it, it's very, very much like I said with the rookies when they come into the league. You become a rookie again. You leave football, and all of a sudden, if you're going to go into the business world, you're a rookie again, and you have to recognize that you're a rookie. There's a tendency, if you're successful at one thing, there's a tendency to just think you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and you can just jump in and be successful at the next thing. But that's very rare. So when when you come out, go find mentors. Go find, if there's a business that you think you're particularly interested in, go find somebody, get an internship, and just go shadow somebody. You'll be amazed at what they'll tell you, man. They'll give you all the secrets, man. They'll give you the keys to the kingdom if you just ask them the questions. So go find mentors and learn from them, and then you got a chance.
And my last question is, if there is some type of NFL season, who are your Super Bowl picks?
Okay, let's see. If there's a season, the obvious ones are obvious, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
you got the Niners are going to continue to be good. John Lynch is doing a great job as their GM. They're just going to kind of keep, reloading. We've got a great coach. I really like Jimmy G, and they're going to continue to be good. Chiefs are going to be good. But kind of sleeper picks, right? Which would be a little more interesting. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you right now, I like the Chargers. I really do. I think they had like 6 games that they lost by less than a touchdown last year, and they were banged up on their offensive line. Their defense is really good. Anthony Lynn is their coach. I really like him. He's an outstanding football coach. So they might jump up and surprise some people. That wouldn't stun me. I'm trying to think who else would be kind of a sleeper
What
pick.
about the
I
Colts
think
with Phillip Rivers now?
what's that? You know what? That's not crazy. That is not crazy. The Colts could do something. I would be so happy for Phillip too, because he's been a great quarterback for a long time and just hasn't been able to make a deep run in the playoffs. I really like him. Yeah, no, and they've got a great coach in Frank Reich too. So they've sort of got the important pieces, man. They got an outstanding head coach, an outstanding quarterback, and they made some moves on the offensive line. So, if you're going to pick like the pillars of your team, those would be three pretty important ones. Having a good quarterback, an outstanding head coach, and a great offensive line. If you got those three pieces in place, you're well on your way. So the Colts said they can surprise somebody too, for sure. Oh, got to throw one
And
else.
what about the Saints?
One more. I think
Oh,
the Saints are
go
always
ahead.
going to be relevant. Man, the Saints. I feel that, man. It's like they're just snake bit, man. It's just a few years in a row now, just crazy plays that have knocked them out. Love Sean Payton, was with him for 1 year in Dallas. Great offensive coordinator. Obviously, love Drew Brees. So they can make a run. And then, man, I've got to tell you, I've played most of my career in New England, so I'll always be tied to New England. Got to play the end of my career down in Dallas. Loved being in Dallas. But man, I want the Buffalo Bills to win something so bad. Their fans are so loyal.
Ah,
Their fans are so loyal, and they've been so close, and the fans in Buffalo, man, they deserve a run, man. So hopefully they can get there.
amen to that. Thank you for allowing me to interview you. It's been a very humbling and blessing experience, man. And I definitely look forward to speaking with you soon about your winery business.
Right on, Fago. Nice to meet you, buddy. And
Yes, sir. All right, now.
cheers.
Yes,
Cheers.
sir.
I'm gonna have some more wine.
Yes, sir. Yes,
See you,
sir.
buddy.
All right, now.